I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask Jared if we have a quorum.
I'm happy to confirm a quorum, but Melissa, can you be my double check? Thank you.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Okay, and if we could introduce members, and we'll start with the members at the meeting. I'm Debbie Levin-Stankiewicz, and I am the chair of the RAC. We could go around this way.
Laura Cronick.
Melanie Coletti.
And who are you with?
Oh, and I am with the state of Colorado. I am part of the digital equity team at the Department of Labor and Employment.
Good morning. I'm Joanne Ruth, commonly known as Joe, Colorado Springs.
Bill Bowles from Park County.
Melissa Martz with the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging. And we can now turn it over to online introductions. And Debbie, do you want to call people out or you want me to do that?
No, I will let them just go ahead. We'll start with
That would be Gordon.
Gordon.
Yes, Gordon Rick, representative of Fountain.
Maria.
Maria Cordova, Community Outreach Coordinator with the Independent Center. We serve Park, Teller, and El Paso County.
Thank you. Vinny, if you could introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Vinny Vanek, and I'm with the Department of Human Services here with El Paso County.
Thank you. Now, if we could move to agenda approval, do we have a motion to accept the agenda? Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second.
And any discussion, any things we need to change? Okay, then let's have a vote. Everybody who is accepting of the agenda, say aye.
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 Great. Okay, so the next thing, we're on number 3 here, is a motion to approve the minutes from the previous RAC meeting. Do I have a first to accept?
I so move.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. And then how about if we vote on it? Everybody in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, thank
Aye.
you. Okay, we're down to number 4 on our agenda here, which is public comments and presentations. Let's start with public comments. Do we have any public comments, Jared?
So Madam Chair, I'll ask anyone who is online who is not a member of the RAC to please use the raise hand function to let us know if they'd like to provide public comment. In the meantime, we did not receive any advance requests for public comment, and we did not receive any written public comment that we would have submitted to the RAC members in advance of this meeting. We'd also ask anyone in the room who would like to provide public comment to go to the podium at this time. As I've said on that, I do not see any hands raised, and I don't see anyone going to the podium, so I think we can move forward at your discretion.
Great, thank you. And we're going to move on to presentations.
Action items.
Oh, it says up here presentations.
Oh,
anyway,
well,
okay. Action items.
sorry.
Okay. Maria, I think, is going to make a motion to for approval of our new member.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is Maria Cordova, and we do have a new member who's expressed interest in joining the RAC for everyone's consideration. Vincent, do you go by Vinny or Vincent?
Vinny.
Vinny, awesome. All right, Vinny, yeah.
Okay, do we have a so Maria, you will be the first. Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
Well, welcome, Vinny. We're glad to have you to our meetings. And I know Eric's always been very helpful with information. So I'm very, as I said, I'm very glad to have you. I don't know why we're having so much feedback.
Vinny, if you can hear me, we're having feedback through yours. So if you can, I just muted you. But if you can kind of adjust your audio, that would be great.
I will say everything is very echoey on my side.
Yeah, it's echoing from you. So
So thank you, Vinny, and we appreciate Eric bringing you on and having you join us, and look forward to doing a full orientation to the RAC at some point in time in the near future. I don't believe we have any other new members just yet. We do have a person here visiting us today who's learning a little bit more about the RAC and possibly may have interest in being a member. So we may have another person coming on. So I might have 2 orientations to do, but I know I'll have Vinny's in the near future. And with that, did we actually have people kind of vote? I can't.
We did.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
Sorry that I missed that when I was checking on the audio. So thank you, everyone, and I'll turn it back over to Chair
Thank you.
Debbie. Thank you.
We're on number 6.
Debbie, you're on mute.
So we're now up to number 6, which is presentations, and we're going to have a presentation by about the Colorado Digital Equity Plan, and we have Ms. Melanie Coletti, who is sitting over here. She's the Digital Equity Manager at the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I am really excited to be here talking about this. I have for folks, I don't know how many people, I know you were here last time. I have some new information, so I'll focus mostly on the new information. There are slides available from the previous presentation that I did, and I'll do some of those as well, just to give you some background. Oh, good, I have sharing. So I'm going to put my slides up. Give me just a moment. So these are the slides I used in March. Hopefully they're big enough for folks to see. And Melissa said she could send these out to people if you need them. So basically what I want to talk about is the fact that the state of Colorado, and actually every state in the country, has its very first digital equity plan. They were all approved, I think, in April. And this is all part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill. So we are considered infrastructure because, I mean, we have folks joining us online right now. Everything we do, registering our cars and all that, can be done online. And so it's really important for people to have that access. And, you know, a lot of people don't still. There are places in Colorado that are rural that do not have good connectivity. Might be familiar, right? And, you know, for folks who haven't used computers for a long time, there's always something new to learn. And so that's part of our task, is to make sure that people are able to get online if they choose to do so, and to accomplish all of the things that you need to do in the world today. So I'm just going to go through these kind of quickly because I want to share the new stuff too. So we also have a digital navigator pilot that is happening right now. And if you don't know, a digital navigator is someone who sits with another person and helps them do whatever they want to do online. This has been shown to be the most effective way for people to learn computer skills. It's much better than classes, which sometimes people think they need to take a class, like Word, for example, but they don't really need it, you know? So having someone sit there to kind of get to know someone and find out what their needs or interests are is a really good way to do that. So right now we have about 30 navigators as part of this pilot. Some of them are AmeriCorps members, so they are volunteering with a stipend. And some of them are temporary employees of the state. And that money will run out in June of 2025. But luckily, we will have received some money from the Digital Equity Act that I just mentioned a few slides ago. And we will hopefully be able to pick up where we leave off with this pilot. Let's see. What do I need to tell you here? Okay. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and specifically the Digital Equity Act that is funding our work, requires that we focus on these 8, what they call covered populations. And those 8 populations are veterans, and I see your Korean veteran hat here next to me, immigrants, people experiencing poverty and houselessness, people with language barriers, racial and ethnic minorities, people who are incarcerated or who have been, older adults, people who have disabilities, and people who live in rural areas. So we are obviously focused on everyone in Colorado, but especially these 8 populations. We did a lot of research. We got over 6,000 responses to a survey that we conducted last summer. And we worked with community-based organizations who serve all of those covered populations I mentioned to help people complete the survey online. We had paper surveys also. We advertised in rural newspapers. And we also hosted listening sessions so people who weren't online could come in person and share their ideas. So we have that data. We have the Colorado Health Access Survey is another survey that was really useful to us, and we paid to have a few questions about digital equity on that survey, and that reached over 10,000 people. We also used a report from the Sterling Correctional Facility, and now I'm forgetting the name of the survey for older adults, the biggie. Yes, Kazoa. Yes. So we looked at that after the fact, but we hope that we will use that data a lot more next time we're evaluating data, because that was fabulous and there was great information in there. So what we know about how people feel about digital inclusion in Colorado is that they think internet service is too expensive. A lot of people are nervous to even get online because they're afraid their information is going to be stolen. A lot of people only go online using a smartphone, which is fine for some things, but it's not great for, working from home like I do, or attending a class online. So we want people to have access to big screen devices like a laptop or a home computer. Lots of people don't know where to get help if they need it. But a lot of people do want to learn to use the internet who don't currently. So these are all things that we're thinking about as we're rolling this plan out. Okay, I'm going to go to my other slides now. Let me close this and go here. I need hold on, share. Okay, we're in business. Switching it up. All right. So we are receiving about $12 million. It should be available at the end of this year. And we originally thought we were going to get one chunk of $20 million. Not so. The federal government has changed up plans multiple times on us. So we are getting $12 million. And then hopefully next year, at about the same time, we will receive another $4 million. And the next year, another $4 million. But we are not 100% positive. And there's an appointee at the head of the NTIA who's sending us funding. So if administrations change or whatever, we don't know. All that said, though, it would take an act of Congress to pull back this funding. And I mean, my experience recently is that Congress is not doing a lot. So I think we're safe. So I think we're okay. This is not a priority for Congress to be pulling back funds for this. So we work closely. NTIA is the federal agency. It's part of the Department of Commerce that is sending us this money. There's also an organization called ND, as in dog, IA. It's the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, and they are huge proponents of digital equity. They've done all of the important work in this field, and they've been supporting the states in writing their plans and figuring all this stuff out. So I put a link to their coalition's webpage on this slide because the primary way that we are going to spend this $12 million, which is not enough money to get everyone a device, to get, everyone the computer lessons that they need. We are going to lean on communities to put together their own coalitions. We will support them in that, to create a way to allow communities to decide what they need most. They can prioritize what they need, and then we can fund that. And it also sets up a system so that while we're going through this work over the next 5 to 7 years, we can identify other funders. So once these coalitions are in place and they understand how to receive funding and how to distribute it to communities, then they will also have a way to get funding from other organizations, right? Because at some point, this money is going to run out. And in the past, money for digital equity has been like, we're going to put up a bunch of computer labs and libraries, which is fine, but then the computers get old, and then what? That was Denver Public Library for me. We received 120 computers as part of this funding, and all these accessibility things for, we had a Braille printer and all this cool stuff. And then the computers started to break, and there was no kind of plan in place. So that's why we're going with this coalition strategy. And we're also working on trying to get some maybe community colleges or possibly recyclers, electronics recyclers, to start refurbishing programs so that we have more devices at a lower cost available to people. So that's the next year's work. But for this year, this is our primary push. And the reason I shared this slide with you is because I think a lot of people are like, hey, how does my organization get money? And it's not really going to work out like that. I mean, your organization may get money if the community decides that that's the priority, right? And that way we can kind of suss out who's best suited to start to make these improvements. So what's cool about coalitions is they can be advocates. They can say, our community needs this. And it's a direct line of communication to my team and to the broadband office, which is great. It aligns work that different organizations do, and maybe it might reveal some efficiencies, right? If some organizations are doing the same work as others, maybe one of them can focus on one thing and one of them can focus on something else. So we hope it will be capacity building. We'll see. This is all a great experiment. And then, yeah, I think we'll have a broad view of kind of what's going on across the state. So, people power is the main reason we want to do this. We want to empower organizations, communities, and economic development regions. We want sustainability. Like I said, just giving everybody a bunch of money and saying, go wild, and then the money's gone is not how we want to do it. And I'm going to actually go to the next screen because this is a confusing thing for, I think, a lot of people. We've done a couple of roadshow events in Walsenburg and Avondale recently, and people are like, what are these regions you're talking about? So this is the way the state breaks down economic development regions. There are 14 of them, and we would like to have ideally a coalition in each of those by the end of this funding. And like whatever the center is, like for this region, I'm sure El Paso County would be the center, right? And then if other little towns, like I used to live in Cripple Creek, I'm thinking, there are lots of places where people could contribute to the bigger coalition with their own either working groups or something. So the structure would be up to the region. But what we want people to do to start to prepare for this funding is to think about who the digital inclusion people are in the region. And that's always, nonprofits. Sometimes it's even like churches teaching computer classes or helping people apply for benefits or whatever the case may be. It could be a business who hires people who need to know how to use computers to get the job. And maybe, this is happening all over the country where employers don't have enough people who know how to use computers to fill their positions. So those businesses should participate in the conversation. Internet service providers, right? The people who you have to pay to get your internet connectivity. And then we're also wondering, so the way we're going to roll this out is with fiscal sponsors. We heard over and over and over again at, especially in rural areas, there might be one paid employee at a city government and they can't apply for funds, right? Because there's not enough capacity for them to manage a grant. And so we are looking for fiscal sponsors that you all maybe already know and work with and trust. So if you have an idea of a fiscal sponsor that you think would be a good fit to kind of oversee the funding and the grant piece of this for this county or this region, we would like to know who they are. So I would love to get emails from you. Just to give you an idea of who we're thinking about, there are some really good ones out there. Trailhead is a great one. They oversee, I think, 12 different nonprofits' finances, like completely. CSU extension offices are very interested, and they are usually very well trusted in communities. Latino Coalition has expressed interest, and they actually help coach communities on how to receive money and manage it. So those are some ideas, but we'd love to hear others. We also, I kind of want to show you this platform and we'll see if it loads. So one of the things we're doing to connect people and to get this information out as widely as possible is we are creating this community partner relationship platform. And I guess I might have to share again. Let me stop and then reshare. Okay. So what's cool about this is it'll be available to everyone. And I don't know how great this is to look at online, but this is a report that we ran with the 240 locations who've participated and given us their organization's information. So they're spread out all over the state, and the colors mean that they are different types of organizations. And if we scroll down, we can see, some of the organizations are in multiple counties. Some serve a whole county or the whole state. Over on the right side, you can see where they are geographically and which county they're in. So some of them, we only have a few from like Rio Blanco County or Baca County. Then this chart shows what types of organizations they are: community-based, library, county government, state government. These are the types of organizations, and you can click on the link when you get the slides, and you'll be able to look at this more closely. And here's what they do. That little tiny red sliver is who provides digital equity funding. And then there's a whole bunch of other types of providers. They do research or cybersecurity training, or maybe they aren't doing anything yet, but they're interested. So I'm going to scroll. I know this is going to make you dizzy here. Okay. So down at the bottom, oh, it jumped. That's cool. Great. So these are the colors and what types of organizations. And then when you click on these, it shows what all the information about the organization. So this one just happens to be an economic assistance and planning organization for Region 10 in Montrose. And what we're working on with the next phase, we're going to spend just a little bit of money on working on how these organizations are all connected. So at some point when you look at this website or this report, it's going to show lines between organizations, and you can kind of zoom in and see who is this organization working with, and that will help us strengthen these coalitions and kind of help everyone get an understanding of what other people in the digital equity space are doing. So that is that, and I am going to go back to where I was. Yay! I'm getting the Microsoft Teams down. We use Google at the state, so it's always fun remembering how to do everything. All right, and then the timeline for folks who are interested. We actually have 9 months after our funding is awarded later this year to identify both our fiscal sponsors and the coalitions who are interested in starting up for this first round. So it'll be, over a year before we're actually just doing the work. But that also means that we have time for organizations and governments and communities to get ready for this funding. So if you will be so kind as to use the link on the previous slide to add your organization to our list, we will ensure that you get a copy of the request for application. And we'll just keep you kind of in the loop about, what our office is doing. So we would love for you to do that. And like I said, the first round of subrecipients will be fiscal sponsors. We will then work with those fiscal sponsors who win awards to co-write the grant application for the coalitions. So that's how that's going to work. And for right now, we're saying one region or one coalition per region is what we'll fund, because we, like I said, we just don't have enough money to really get in the weeds with that yet. Hopefully we'll identify some other funding. And then this link here on the slide is for our website, and that's where you can read more about the digital navigators. We will keep things up to date on there when the applications come out. You can also join digital equity stakeholder meetings online with us if you're interested. They are all virtual because we don't really have a public meeting space at at my office. We all work remotely, so they are virtual. But even a space like this might be, if you're getting creative and people want to attend in person, there might be like a library space or something where you could several people attend virtually. And the Get Involved tab also is a way that you can see when the next stakeholder meetings are happening. They're every other month. They're just an hour and a half. So, and then I also have my email address here. Sorry, here's the link. It wasn't the previous slide. It's this slide. So if you click this yellow link, it'll take you to a form where you can fill out information for any organization that you might represent, so we can get you on that map. And we'll know to reach out to you when we get all of our ducks in a row. So that's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. So it seems to me that the work that has to be done is in the local areas coming together. I mean, because you're only going to get basically one application, and there could be, I don't know, 20, 30 organizations that want some of this money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So what we are envisioning, I try and think of like an example that's relevant. So in Denver, for example, I mean, there are hundreds of organizations. They also only have the only digital equity, what are they called? Coalition. Yeah, I think they do use the word coalition in the whole state. So for like what we're thinking is, say there are a couple of counties out on the Eastern Plains, and there's like a meat packing plant that employs all kinds of people, and there is a library, and there is like a health clinic. Like all of those organizations should get together and start talking about what they need in that region. And is the library the best place? Is it a church that maybe ramped up their internet connectivity during COVID so they could have online services and they could teach classes there? Do people need computers most? I mean, it doesn't have to be one priority, right? But it has to be up to everyone in the coalition to determine what the most important things are. Yeah.
So how do you recommend? I mean, I saw our region there, Pikes Peak, which is our 3 counties, is definitely there. And of course, we have the Pikes Peak area, but there are a lot of different organizations that do different things in our community. How do you suggest we start? I mean, I don't know, how are you going around to all these different organizations and letting them know that there's such a thing as digital equity money?
Yeah, we're trying to start to get the word out now because now we know when we're getting the money and things. So we were kind of waiting to find that information out. But yes, so people adding their names to that list is one way. We will send RFAs to everyone. We also are starting to reach out to councils of government, municipal governments, economic development agencies. There are actually a number of nonprofits that we have partnered with just over the past year and a half. And so we're starting like that. We also have a decent relationship with Comcast's philanthropic folks, and they are always willing to do like a little PSA for us on TV. So we're going to try and pull out all the stops here in the next few months.
I have just one more question. Do you recommend that the application should focus on those populations that you listed before?
Yeah, I think that's probably a great way to do it. Yeah, because that is our priority, obviously. So yeah, anytime you can include like this group this is great. And we know there are lots of intersections too, which is why we want those cross-sector coalitions, right? Because a lot of people have disabilities and are veterans and, may have literacy issues. And many people identify with multiple of those. And so I think, we had questions early on, or can we do like a refugee coalition? And we were thinking, at first maybe. And then we thought no, because it's important for other people to other organizations to understand the digital equity needs of refugees as well as, right.
So I do have one other.
Yeah.
I do have one other
Great.
question. So how, in terms of our state, obviously there's different sizes and different areas of those districts. How are you deciding how to split that money?
Mm-hmm. So we'll use a formula, which we have not figured out what the formula is yet, but you can imagine it will be population. And we also have lots of data on needs of people and how many devices are in households and things like that. That's all part of the American Communities Survey through the Census Bureau, and all of the other surveys that I mentioned. So we'll use that data to identify areas of biggest need, population, and I'm not sure if there will be other calculations. Yeah. And also, like when we're talking about getting these organizations together, we aren't just leaving you out in the wind. We actually are going to hire someone who will be a liaison, who will be on the ground traveling. My colleague is in Buena Vista, and we also have some folks in the Pueblo area, for example. So, we're going to try to hit the streets as much as we can, but we also want people we want you to connect with one another too, but we're going to support that initial conversation and get everybody on the same page about what this is, because this is a totally new concept for a lot of places.
Yeah, I'm on. I'll change hats here and put on the Park County and Teller County Senior Coalitions. And we're trying to get communications in those mountains, but it's hard.
Yeah, I work very closely with the Colorado Broadband Office, obviously, because if people don't have connectivity, all of the stuff we're doing isn't going to do anything. So, yeah, Colorado geographically is so hard because of what you said, and building fiber through granite or, there's
It's a basic problem.
it's a basic problem, and I don't care how good of an engineer you are, it's hard.
I had it. I'd suggested that we have some local radio towers, just one on this peak, one over here, and just a low power communication link. My dissertation was in radar scatter, so I've got some familiarity with
So
communication.
you're going to build it?
No,
Oh,
but I would assist them in guiding them on where to put.
yeah, that's great.
I'm almost able to see the tower on Badger Mountain, but I can't. So I pick up my stuff from Woodland Park, 30 miles away instead of 2. So
Yeah, the broadband office is working on connecting 99% of Coloradans. And originally it was supposed to be with fiber, but because of what Bill's saying, that isn't going to be a solution for everyone. So there are some other options like spectrum technology is what transmits cell phone signals, and there's some other options that might be coming. So hopefully most people's service will improve in rural areas in the coming couple of years, but yeah, it's going to be tough. Yeah.
Before we end, we do have a question. Maria, you have a question?
Great. Thanks, Debbie. Less of a question, more of a plug. I've been going to some of the digital equity meetings the last couple, and they've been really great. And there's always breakout sessions where we can always brainstorm, and you're talking to different people throughout the regions of Colorado. And so, and just so you know, Melanie, too, I'm going to start sharing out all of that information with several of our resource groups. There's the Teller County Mental Health Alliance, there's the Park County Mental Health Alliance, the Teller County Resource Group, and the 2 senior coalitions too. So I think the more people we have working together on this, hopefully will help figure out how to get people access.
That's for the plug, Maria.
Any other questions?
Question.
Joe?
This is Joe. As we listen to the publications and the TV, we look at is AI. Mm-hmm. And that sends chills up and down the backs of most elders, mm-hmm. because we are already inundated with the scams. But the same thing could be said for all of the rest of the people of the population. What are the needs are. So what is the possibility? How aware are we of the larger organization? How aware are we of how to include the seniors and the veterans and the people who do not have access to this information, nor do we even understand the language? It wouldn't know what to do with it if it hit us in the face, and it will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a really, really good point. And we heard that over and over again in listening sessions that, AI, cybersecurity is a concern. Our Attorney General in Colorado, Phil Weiser, has been really working on easy ways for people to report scams and get ahead of scams and kind of share that information. But I know that a lot of people don't even know that's happening. So part of our work and in our digital access plan, we actually talk about sharing some of that information out more broadly. And that's another reason for the coalition structure, is so we know where to send for it to get to the people who need it. So we'll be working on some of that awareness as well.
And the other part of this is that once it gets down to the people who have one of them, and I use that word broadly, how do you work the things? Mm-hmm. How do we ourselves get on the internet? But how do we use the equipment that we have? The learning curve is so much longer than the new equipment.
Yeah.
And so once you just said they're out of date, they do whatever. How are we going to, unless our populations who are already the at-risk populations, how can we help that education process of those particular people that are the really end product of what we're working for? So all of the fancy machines in the world are, and all of the connectivity that's required, if the last step is missing, we're lost. So I hope that there will be something of that recognition, because most of the people who are working at that level, it's in their bodies, it's in their cells. Mm-hmm. They understand it, but we don't.
Right.
We being the aging population.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
and I think, we're working on
Not that old.
yeah.
Oh, no.
The digital navigator piece, I think, will be really important. And this is, we're still working on stuff with AmeriCorps and with some other state agencies. So what we're thinking is doing another AmeriCorps program and targeting who are either older or who are younger to be the navigators, who are not reliant on, like a big income, who may already be retired. And two reasons for that. One is cross-generational learning is really effective, and so is peer learning, right? And so we're thinking of working with, and like I said, this is not hatched yet, but we want to work with Colorado State Library so that they can hopefully place navigators in all of the libraries in the state, which would be a start. Most regions have at least some library nearby. And I was a public librarian for 17 years, and that's a lot of what I did was help people with computers. So that's a great trusted place to try that. We also want to work with the Department of Corrections, possibly. We found out that they can have AmeriCorps members in prisons, and that's one of the main reasons people don't thrive when they are released from prison, and most people are released from prison at some point, is when you've been incarcerated and you don't have access to computers for 10 years. A lot changes in 10 years, and then you're starting from scratch. So we're thinking that might be a way to have people who are incarcerated but who have digital skills to teach their fellow inmates in the prison. So we're working on some stuff like that, but we'll see if it actually lands.
Jen, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. I was just curious if you're connecting with healthcare policy and finance to work with Medicaid and health equities as far as having access for technology with telemedicine appointments for people in rural areas.
Yeah, actually, the other person who wrote this plan with me is from the Office of eHealth Innovation, and she works half-time in telehealth world and half-time in digital equity. So it's a great intersection. She actually had a program that launched last year to have telehealth kits in rural libraries, and people can either use them in the library with some support from library staff or take them home to kind of, do telehealth appointments when they hadn't in the past. So she's been a really great colleague, and I'm sure, we are definitely looping in the medical community. Because in the library, again, I used to have people come in and say, my doctor told me to log into the portal and I could see my results, and I have no idea how to do that. And so we know that there's a need for that as well. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask a question? Can y'all hear me? Great. Or a couple of comments to you. PPACG year before last completed a tri-county study. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the tri-county study, one of the big elements of that was actually broadband access. So looking at Park Teller and El Paso counties, and I'm pretty sure Bill participated in some of those conversations too. So some good information was compiled about sort of that infrastructure and what would be best in those communities. So just using that as a reference to, and also you were talking about kind of a good place for sort of a hub for the funding as well as coalitions. And so Council of Governments, I know you mentioned, we touch every county across the state. And so I think that is just an opportunity to continue the conversations. And we're obviously connected with our agency partners here as well. So I'm sure that our team would be interested in talking to you guys about that. And there is monthly meetings with all the council of governments across the state, that possibly would be worth trying to get on those monthly meetings just for a presentation, so that you are able to talk to everybody at the same time. So just a suggestion.
That is super helpful. Thank you very much. And I am taking those suggestions back to Denver with me.
Melissa.
So I actually have 6 things to share. So bear with me here, folks. I'm going to try to stay focused on them. The first is I wanted to just inquire about the position that you mentioned and if that position has been posted and when it might be posted, if you know.
Yeah, we won't be posting anything until we get our funding.
Okay.
So
it's a
it'll,
ways out.
I would say, early 2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also forgot to mention, speaking of positions, each coalition we know will need like an administrative person to kind of keep everything connected and schedule meetings and all of that. So that's something that we want coalitions to fund.
Hmm.
And, you know, so we'll be looking for that as well.
Okay. And then the second thing is I don't want to totally model after Denver. I want everybody to be their own group, right? And I appreciate that. However, I am curious, who is the host site? Like who was the entity in Denver that really kind of pulled that coalition together over the last year or however long it was? Who is that?
Yeah, so Denver started an office of equity, I want to say. I can't remember the name of that office.
Out of the city?
Out of the city.
Okay.
And Denver Public Library. And one of the other original founders was someone from, at the time, PCs for People, which is a nonprofit that refurbishes and sells computers for a low cost. So those 3 kind of pulled it all together. That said, they has said that they've been kind of hamstrung a little bit by some of the city rules and things. And so, we're hoping that if each region, including Denver, creates their own plan that has to sort of align with ours, that might give them a little more space to operate in a little bit of a different way. So right now, it's employees of city agencies that are the 2 leading kind of organizers.
And is Denver a region all by itself, like the city of Denver, or like with Region 4, us, we're 3 counties? Is so that Denver coalition, does that cover the region that's appropriate, or do they still need to get bigger?
I think it'll still be bigger.
Okay.
It might look a little different. Like when I'm thinking about rural areas, I'm thinking that it might be smaller cities with working groups. But in Denver, I think it might be covered population working groups or in that region, because it's so densely populated and there are enough refugee serving agencies and older adult serving agencies that they could have their own separate working groups because it's a smaller geographic region, but it's a way more populated region.
Yeah.
So there could be different ways of looking at those.
Great.
Yeah.
And then my third point is that so on the broadband side, there is the Colorado, the Governor's Office of Information and Technology is hosting their broadband roadshow. And one of our own county commissioners in Park County, Commissioner Amy Mitchell, who's on the Park County, she's a Park County commissioner and also on our Commission on Aging. She put together, and for Region 4, the 3 counties, they are hosting the broadband roadshow for Region 4 in Park County. I have a flyer that announces all of the road shows that are happening around the state. I thought I had the flyer in front of me that actually had the link to the road show that's for Region 4. This is going to be talked about briefly at the PPACG board meeting because, of course, the folks at on the PPACG board need to be thinking about logging in and listening in on that. So that's coming up on June 13th. 13th. And of course, so people can go in person, but it also virtual because they'll be pulling people from El Paso, Park, and Teller County. But it turned out that wonderful Park County is hosting it in person. And that's kind of how they wanted it to be. They wanted the rural area to be able to host it. So that's happening. The next thing I wanted to mention when people talked about scams. So there is a relatively new for seniors, for older adults, coalition that started out of Denver University called the Nobel Institute. And they are focused on helping to fight fraud and for older adults. And so they are a group, and they have reached out from their Denver hub to have more people part of that statewide coalition. And as I'm bringing this up, I'm thinking they should come and present to the RAC at some point in time. Here locally, the Pikes Peak Elder Abuse Coalition and the Elder Justice Center are part of that group up in Denver at the Nobel Institute, but they are focused on working to continue to tackle this fraud issue. And I'm so glad that you know about the website where seniors and anyone can go and report. I have told many people to do that, and it's quite easy. And they are tackling the data there. They're really trying to figure out what's going on. And so kudos to our district attorney's office, and then also the Nobel Institute for getting up and running. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention is I'm glad you talk a lot about AmeriCorps. We have a Vista in the room with us today, and Sylvia is sitting back by Jared, and we are so grateful for all the Vistas and the things that have been happening with that program over the last year or so. So it's fun to hear how much you guys are relying on Vistas to bring them in. And I will want to follow up with you about Park County and the telehealth person that you mentioned, because our Park County Senior there are so many P's. Our Commission on Aging, which has our Park County Commissioner Amy Mitchell on that commission, she is dedicated to, and the Commission on Aging is very focused on figuring out how to get and utilize broadband and digital equity up there in Park County. And so she has a pilot program that she's working to try to run to do digital health appointments out of ambulance offices. So I think she needs to be connected with your person that you mentioned. So before you leave today, let's make sure that I get that information so that I can pass that on to Commissioner Mitchell up in Park County. And I think those were all my items. And so thank you everyone for bearing with me to get through that list. And if any other comments.
Thank you, Melissa. Anybody else have any questions or issues? And I just want to say that I know that our Council on Aging and our Strategic Review Committee are going to try to be working together more closely to share some of the kinds of things that we're doing. And so hopefully with all this digital stuff going on and that commissioner, I think that will be a really helpful process here so that our RAC can be more in tune with what's happening in our three regions, in our three counties. We do have a question. Lori Wood.
Hi, Chief Grants and Compliance Officer for Silver Key. Hi, Melody. I just want to say Silver Key did host one of the listening sessions for gathering input from seniors, and we were proud to do that. And we also, through City Innovation Department, have a digital equity grant and set up a lab to one of the participants' concerns. And we have peer support classes, workshops, and open lab Monday to Friday to help seniors navigate all of these issues. And of course, we're very interested to be part of the coalition. But as has been pointed out, we're sort of wondering who's going to take the lead in creating a coalition for our region. So just saying we have our ear to the ground and we're very interested in trying to do our part at Silver Key. So thank you for giving me a moment to speak.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting the listening session. That was really valuable feedback that we got. And I think, as far as taking the lead, I'm thinking about how we identify those people. But we do know people in all of the regions who are just naturally kind of interested in bringing organizations together. So we'll lean on them to find out more and try and do some of the heavy lifting for you all.
Thank you, Melanie. Any other questions, concerns? Melanie, thank you for that great presentation. I think there's a lot to think about. It's very confusing because there's so much going on and so much to be thinking about, but thank you again. And hopefully you will be coming back and doing an update for us at some time in the future. I think that we'll move on now. If we go to 6B, it's our membership committee, and Maria is our membership chair, and she has a couple of things that I think she's going to tell us about.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Maria Cora. I did just want to update everybody. I know Melissa talked about this during our last meeting, but we did have a couple of members resign. Marilyn Massey and Mary Kep have resigned from the RAC due to health issues and other priorities that they wanted to seek out. So we are looking for additional members, and we do have an availability for somebody to fill the first vice chair position.
Thank you.
Sorry. and then just wanted to let everyone know that Bill Bowles will continue to serve as the vice chair. So yeah, we're seeking nominations.
I'll hang in there a little while more.
And hopefully we will get some nominations, and then at our June meeting, after speaking with Maria, will be able to appoint a first vice chair. Thank you. And I think we're going to move on now to our strategic review committee, and Laura here is going to give us an update. They had a meeting which had a lot of information in it, and go ahead, take it away, Laura.
Thank you. And thank you, Melissa. She updated the form format, the meetings, to include everything that went on in May. And it was fairly, what's the word I'm looking for? It was generic. There's nothing really super special that went on because everything has already happened, and is still going on. So this was more an informational exchange, and all of the information, I believe, is in the form that's posted to the website for this meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it's all the information in green because we love colors for the May meeting. If there are any questions or a request for additional information, please let us know.
Any questions?
I just wanted to add on this topic during our state evaluation this past month. They had asked for a tracking spreadsheet from us to see how we were doing on our strategic planning. And they were wanted to let you know that they were really pleased with the tracking, the work that Melissa has done, and the work that the Strategic Review Subcommittee has done. So wanted to share that we are one of the few regions in the state that has made progress on this so quickly and is doing a great job in tracking and being able to demonstrate that as well. So thank you to the subcommittee and to Melissa for all your hard work with that. It's being noticed.
I think it's one of the reasons we designed the form, to make sure that we are going ahead with our goals and making sure that we try to meet our goals. So yes, thank you. Okay, our TRS committee, and usually Jody handles this, but I think Melissa, I don't know if you have any other comments.
I don't know that I'll make comments, and I'm looking over to Melody to see if she might have any as well. I think that, for the most part, this is just a reminder that we're moving through the processes and hoping to have, well, not hoping, really working hard to make sure that contracts really do get executed by July 1 and seeing that that's moving forward as we have been hoping for the last 9 months in terms of tracking calendars and making things work. But I will just see, Melody, if you have anything.
I don't think I have anything significant to add, just that our prospective providers have done a really good job in being responsive and in working on these things since they're a lot of work. So just want to make the RAC aware that our providers are putting a lot of effort into it, and we really appreciate them doing that and jumping through all of the hoops.
I know I sat in by Zoom on the PPACG board meeting that was earlier in May, and Jody did a long presentation about how our funds are not, they approved our tentative stuff, including our 3 new providers, but we still don't have our final money amounts at this point.
That's correct. And because of that, too, we're not bringing on those 3 new providers because we're not sure where the funding is going to land. And also because we received feedback from our current providers and want to honor and maintain those relationships and recognize that we don't want to, as much as possible, not cut current programs. So we're being really careful about that and thoughtful about that with our strategic planning, too. So hopefully we'll get notification from the state. We hope for that every day.
Yeah, I think they were approved tentatively based on any additional monies that we get. So updating here the RAC. I don't know, is anybody going to do any report for our director?
I can jump in. I don't know that there was anything else besides what's top of mind for me that since Jody had to leave abruptly, but in addition to the contracts, we just wrapped up our annual performance review, our performance measure survey. That's something that we do every year. The state sets those questions. And so we're looking for certain percentages of satisfaction among the clients that our providers serve. So it used to be, some of you may be familiar with this, but if not, it used to be that we asked our providers to send those out. We've now taken that on internally. We have a staff member who does an excellent job with that. And so just looking at the initial results, this is now, I think, the 3rd year in a row that I've managed it, and our percentages look great. So our providers are doing wonderful with their work, and we've gotten some really good comments back. So we should have a report for that next month, and we'll be sharing out all of those results with the RAC and then also with our providers as well, so they can see by provider, by service, and then by each of the questions that were on those different surveys for the different program areas, so that if they want to, or if we want to drill down into different areas, we can do that. Any questions about that?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I think that the state only requires like 5% of the
It's 9.
providers. But
so they
but
require,
in our region, it's different.
Yeah, so they require that we send out surveys to 50%,
50%.
of our registered. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
So they ask that we send out to 50%. We do 100%. We try to get as much of a response back as possible. So just trying to send out all of the surveys. This year we sent out 6,500. So our client numbers have steadily increased. The year before it was about 6,000.
Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah, good question. And then the last thing I wanted to share about, I already touched on with our state evaluation. We're still working on wrapping that up with the evaluator. Our providers have been so responsive with that, so really appreciate them for, it is a boatload, that's not a great professional term, but a lot of documentation that we ask them for. So in addition to our own annual one, and they've been great about follow-up. So I hope that at our next RAC meeting, we'll have a letter in hand with the summary, any areas of concern, any findings. And this evaluator is great too about adding strength and best practices. She shares those across the state. So I think we'll see some of those for Region 4 as we usually do. So hopefully at the next RAC meeting, we'll be able to share that.
And I remember the last couple of years, we have definitely met that goal that we're trying to meet.
Yeah. And the goal too with those compliance findings also, the areas of concerns are ones that are mostly being done right. Anything that's considered a finding is something that's just not being done at all correctly. So the goal is not to repeat those 2 years in a row. That's when it becomes problematic. So what's really great about this evaluator is that she's wonderful about training and technical assistance. So providing a lot of support to help us meet those requirements.
Thank you, Melody. Any
Yeah,
other-
thank you.
Oh, Melissa.
So I will add just two more things to this. Jody did give permission for us to share that the reason he is not here today is his father passed away. And so, you know, I think our Regional Advisory Council, we've had a lot of stuff come up in the last couple of months. And, you know, so for all of those people who are working hard to take care of their health and get better, please keep down that path. And again, Jody did leave pretty abruptly. He just left. And so we're sad to report that out, but I think everybody in here would appreciate knowing kind of what he's going through and that is what has happened. And then after that, I'd like to just point out in the room here that we have wonderful artwork on the walls. And, you know, for the last couple of months, we have been swapping out art in here. And so please take a moment to, you know, check it out, also in the lobby. And then this is our last meeting in this room for the next probably 3, maybe 4 months, because our organization is going to have our doors closed while we finish HVAC work in the building. So today is your last day that you'll be able to check out this beautiful artwork. And then going forward, we will be meeting virtually only for the next couple of months. So just know that. And I think those were the last pieces that I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And I'll just do a short report. I think that today's meeting was great. We got a ton of information. I think my head is like overwhelmed with stuff, and it'll be great to, as the months go on, follow up on what's happening. And I'm wondering, Melissa, if we can have a card. And I don't know how we'll do that virtually, but maybe
I have a card in my office. I'll go track one down.
that we can
And for
sign
the
for
people who are
Jody.
here today can sign. So
Great.
please, everybody don't leave. I'm going to run to my office and I think I have a card that we could utilize. So, and get everybody's notes.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. And just number 8 on here, I don't know if we have any discussion items at all. I don't think we do. But just the next meeting is going to be that virtual meeting on June 27th, again from 10 to 12. So it'll be strange to be the chair of a virtual meeting, which I've never done. I won't have Melissa next to me or Jody next to me helping me out. So
They'll be next to you virtually.
good. Good. Okay, and our RAC Executive Committee meeting, I think we have changed the time on that meeting. I think that what's on your thing is incorrect. I think they are the first Wednesday of every month, and I think we've decided to do them at either 11 or 12. Do you remember anybody, Maria? I think we decided to do them at 11. Yeah. So
Yes, I have it on the calendar as 11.
Okay, and that meeting is all of the subcommittee members that meet for that meeting, and it helps us prepare for this general RAC meeting, so we're a little more organized. And then the other thing is the PPACG meeting, which is Zoom, if any people want to attend, and that's June 12th. It's the first Wednesday of every month, if I remember correctly.
Madam Chair, second Wednesday.
What?
Second Wednesday of
Second
each month.
Wednesday? Okay. All right. So it is an interesting meeting. It's you think your head's just going crazy with all the stuff we do. You should go to one of those meetings and see what all of our commissioners are all dealing with, and it kind of helps. It helps you get an idea of how expansive the issues are concerning our general 3-county area. So if anybody has time to attend that, they are very interesting meetings. So at that point, let's adjourn our meeting. And I thank you all for attending. Super. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you.